You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. Today's 1/20/21. Early, it's Inauguration Day. Is the king dead? Long live the king. Where's populism heading? Are we really on the crest of a major populist wave? Are we going to see right and left, the false distinctions between the two dissolve? What is going to be next for our republic? Our good friend, Dr. Steve Turley, is with us, turleytalks.com. Great podcast, great video, YouTube channel for now. And hey, as long as, Steve, as long as our digital overlords are allowing us to be presented, then here we are, right?
That's right. That's exactly right, Kerry. Great to be back with you.
So obviously, the Trump era in terms of Trump being president is over. And basically, the incoming admin would just like to issue an executive order getting rid of everything that Trump did. But is that really going to happen?
Yeah, well, they're going to try. This is the Empire Strikes Back. This is the political class, or what's often referred to as the permanent political class, the swamp, coming back into power. But the problem is every time the dynamics that we've been seeing going on for the last 30 years is every time globalists make a move to advance their power, the power of the establishment, the power of neocons or neolibs, to push the concerns, the values, the interests of the political class against that of the people. Every time that happens, there is a very predictable backlash. And, we're already seeing it. You and I were talking about it earlier today, about Julian Assange and the calls for his pardon. Back in the day, every single Republican lined up behind someone like Newt Gingrich and said, no way, he's an enemy of the state. That's never going to happen. Arresting him is a good thing. He's an evil villain. Actually, that was one of the terms used for him by Republicans. Here we are now, 4 or 5 years later, after 4 full years of Trumpian populism. And now we're seeing virtually all Republican, media leaders and the like standing up and saying we were wrong. We were absolutely wrong, because in the end, Julian Assange was not violating or, trying to humiliate America or American policy or the government. No, he was trying to humiliate the political class. And what we found is, as again, Tucker Carlson said the other night, if leaking information helps the political class, well, then that's a good thing. Like the FBI leaking information that they have evidence that Trump is a Russian asset and Vladimir Putin is really running our government. That was fine for papers to report that for 3 years straight, 24/7 cable news echo chamber. That was all fine. That was no problem. But the moment you have, and by the way, of course, it all turned out to be a hoax to add insult to injury.
Of course.
But the moment you've got someone who embarrasses the political class, well, they have to be destroyed. So I think what you're seeing, even just in that, is a real noticeable shift, a paradigm shift of opinion and perspective, where both the right and the left, where they normally would have been antagonistic towards one another, are actually kind of beginning to embrace one another around issues that they have in common in terms of a mutual grievance against the political class.
And I think that that $2,000 rebate, whatever, refund, stimulus payment is a perfect example where the people wanted it, rightly or wrongly. You can make an argument for and against. It's almost irrelevant, but to a man, Cocaine Mitch McConnell and his double gangers on the other side of the aisle opposed it, and as a result, it didn't pass. You could argue that that's probably one of the reasons why the Republicans lost the Senate, but we don't even need to go there. The fact is, they've given away billions and billions, probably trillions of dollars to their buddies here, and a lousy $2,000 to an American citizen, that is off the table. And that is really off the planet here, that they could be even thinking in these terms, Steve.
It really is. And again, it's not just us. I mean, that's the really interesting thing here, is that we're seeing this going on all over the world, in Europe, in India, in Brazil, even Russia itself. Scholars have argued that that's one of the reasons for the success of Putin, because in the end, in Russia, all you had after the fall of the Soviet Union was really a bunch of globalist oligarchs running the place. Yeltsin was, passed out in the back, and when Putin came in, he had a populace, a people that he knew were thoroughly traditionalists, very conservative. Russians have, even during communism, ironically, they've always been very, at least socially conservative. He knew he had a very conservative populist population, but he had these globalist oligarchs. So he had to try to find a way to bridge the two. And that's basically contributed to his political success, because he's been able to navigate that pretty well. All around the world, we're just seeing this populist backlash against these globalist oligarchs and political class that govern according to their own interests and values and concerns at the expense of ours. There was a European-wide survey done. The British scholars Roger Eatwell and Matthew Goodwin, in their book Nationalist Populism, published this. It was a continent-wide survey asking Europeans a simple question: do you believe that your politicians don't care about you, don't give a rip about you, in a little American twist there? The continental average was 70% of Europeans agreed with that. 70% of Europeans agreed that their politicians do not care about them, and it got one of the highest nations, where it hit over 80%, was France. Of course, with the Yellow Vest uprising, that's one of the big major populist uprisings over the last year. We're seeing it as well as in Italy. The Italian leftist government there is about to collapse, and the right is ready to take charge. So it's very, very fascinating stuff, because what we're so frustrated with here in Washington is a frustration we share with pretty much the whole of the world's population. More and more populations are simply recognizing a widening gap between themselves and the political class that just governs for their own benefit.
Well, so the political class might not be able to stay in control, right? But they seem to be able to knock out the populists once they do get in control. So what's the next phase in this battle?
Don't just survive, thrive. The Financial Survival Network.
Today's show is brought to you by GR Silver Mining, ticker symbol TSX, GRSL, OTC, GRSLF, and their website at grsilvermining.com. The company is extremely well capitalized, currently has a resource of 40 million ounces of silver, and is looking to triple that number in just the next year alone. Its management team is first rate, headed up by Marcio Fonseca, a geologist with vast experience in mining operations and the financial sector as well. With all this going for it, and with silver trading over $25 the ounce, there's no telling how high GR Silver Mining will go. So go to grsilvermining.com to stay up to date on the latest developments and get on their notification list today.
This is the Financial Survival Network, the information you need to thrive now more than ever.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and I'm wondering if every nation is good. Well, I don't wonder. It's certainly working itself out that every nation has its own pattern. So I don't think there's a how-to manual here. I think there's some basic patterns that we can see in Latin America, that we can see in India. I'll give you one example would be in Latin America, where you do see a lot of populists rise up either on the left or the right. And the establishment, often backed by the United States, has been pretty successful in knocking them down. And usually it's done through character assassination. There's this, of course, we'll have no idea of any of this, right? We're not privy to any of this, but ongoing investigations conducted by the government and ongoing accusations and hit pieces by the media and all that sort of stuff. So pure character assassination. And eventually the populist falls. But what we're finding is they keep coming back. As Nigel Farage would say, as it turns out, populism is rather popular. So they keep coming back. And the interesting thing is every time they come back, they're stronger because the grievances are mounting up even more, you see. And so that's what we saw in Brazil in 2018. Brazil had successfully pushed out any right-wing candidate. Your two candidates for president that you would vote for in Brazil was either a Marxist or a leftist. And that's the norm it was. That's the way actually a very high-ranking Brazilian official explained it to me. And he said, that was your choice for 30 years, a Marxist or a leftist. And out of nowhere, this army captain, Jair Bolsonaro, fully nationalist, populist, traditionalist. This is a guy who's attracted to like Austrian economics, and he wants to, bring back the deregulation, all that after the stifled economy. Very pro-life. He calls out the establishment for being a bunch of dolts and idiots. He's called the tropical Trump. That's well, he rose to power, and today he's actually considered still one of the most popular leaders in all of Latin America. And so I think the role or the lesson in this is we've just got to be tenacious. I know a lot of people are upset right now. I know that. I hear it on my YouTube. I get it in my emails.
Oh, sure.
People are a lot upset. They're very upset. They don't know they're despondent. They don't know what to do. And the answer to them really is, look, I may not have a solid answer of what to do, but I could tell you at least in terms of sentiment and disposition, don't be defeatist. Don't act the way the left wants you to act. Don't end up being as disparaged as the swamp wants you to be. They're trying to defeat you emotionally. They're trying to defeat you in terms of inclination and the drive to kick them out. And if you stand strong and you keep pushing, what we're finding in places like India and Poland and Hungary and the Czech Republic and Slovenia, where our First Lady is from, and Brazil and El Salvador and Guatemala and Colombia and Paraguay and soon to be Italy. I mean, we're seeing success after success of nationalist populists all over, and they are pushing back against the political elite like never before.
Yeah, and I think that is a really astute observation, that it's like they don't learn, the elite, the leading, what do we call them, the leadership class, whatever they are, our leaders, our dear leaders, they don't learn from their mistakes, and they don't learn from experience, and then they just double down, and then they'll be quickly disposed of. So 2022, are we going to see a wave, a red wave or a populist wave in Congress?
Oh, I certainly hope so. I mean, if history's our guide, we're almost guaranteed to get the House. They have their majority is the thinnest majority right now, I believe, in American history. It's only about 5 seats. So they're most likely going to fall, especially with the redistricting that's going to happen as a result of the Republican successes at the state legislative levels. So the 2020 into 2021 redistricting is most likely to favor Republicans actually overwhelmingly. So that should all work in our favor. We should all be fighting for electoral integrity, of course, just make sure that everyone's confidence in the electoral process could be fully affirmed. And I think we should be just fine. And I do expect lots of primarying. Take Liz Cheney as an example out in Wyoming. She was just censored by the Wyoming Republican Party the other day. for her role in voting for the impeachment of Donald Trump, even though 85% Republicans didn't want to have anything to do with that. She's the sole representative from Wyoming, and they only have one. And she, it was made very clear to her that what she did violated the very sacred relationship between Wyoming Republicans and their representatives. I mean, Wyoming is a solid red state.
Oh, yeah.
So she'll get, I'm almost guaranteed she's going to get primaried. And so you see the number 3 Republican in Congress most likely get knocked out pretty easily. She doesn't appear to be very popular at all. They were thinking of running her for Senate, and she didn't because they didn't think she could even make it past the primaries there. So, yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of neocons get knocked out. There's still a lot of rage over the way they abandoned Trump, and I don't think that's going away. Now, again, they're politicians, right? I mean, gosh, Kerry, they're politicians. They can reinvent themselves on a dime. Just look at the chameleon of Lindsey Graham. I mean, Kavanaugh hearings, suddenly he's Mr. Populist 101. He's red pill and so forth. Then the night of the confirmation, the certification of the Electoral College. Oh, I'm done. I'm not going to have anything more to do with this. I'm voting to certify. So they're chameleons. So,
yes.
Don't be surprised to see them all almost unilaterally, even Mittens Romney, adopt some kind of populist rhetoric over the next 2 years. But regardless, I think we're going to be in good position. And I do think, regardless of their rhetoric, they do need to get, particularly in deep red states, which your state, Florida, is rapidly becoming. I'm very excited to see, and with a potential presidential candidate as governor there.
Yeah.
I think you go to the deep red states, primary all the establishment folk, get rid of them, get rid of the RINOs. Because, there's a difference. We talk about there's a difference between nationalist populist right and nationalist populist light. And the nationalist populist right are, the MAGA crowd all the way through, no establishment figures, just pure populism. But the nationalist populist light are going to be your nationalist, your MAGA grassroots, but thoroughly establishment leadership. And the establishment leadership, in the end, will always govern in accordance with its own interests. So it's incumbent upon us to knock out as many of them as we can. And I think we're probably going to see that, and we're going to see a really good 2022.
All right, from your mouth. And it is a bit disheartening to many of you out there. One thing I want to say, Steve, I know you know this book. I think I've even heard you quote it. Man's Search for Meaning by Dr. Max Frankl. And basically the story of a guy who is in a concentration camp, doctor, but still managed to find meaning in life every day. And I feel like we're in the same place here. You can't stake your internal state of happiness on external political affairs. If you do, you're going to be a very miserable, unhappy person. So
that's right.
So the meaning has got to come from within, not from who's running and what's happening and the country's going downhill. Every day the system goes on here. You got a roof over your head. You got food on the table. Your family, you're connecting with them is a gift. And that's the way it needs to be treated here.
Amen. Well said. Very well said.
Okay, well, we'll let you go. We know you got a busy day ahead of you. TurleyTalks.com. Where else do we hunt you down here?
You can check me out. Just look up Dr. Steve Turley on YouTube. We're on Rumble. Same thing, Dr. Steve Turley on Rumble and on BitChute. Lots of other alternative media there, and Twitter as well, and Facebook for now. So you can check me out there.
All right. Well, until there's a vaccination that's 100% efficacious for liberalism, you're in for the fight of your life, Dr. Steve. Thanks so much. Any questions or comments for Dr. Steve? Email us, kl@kerrylutz.com. Sign up for the newsletter, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Really valuable info that you need now more than ever. You just can't find it anywhere else. Dr. Steve, we'll talk to you again real soon.
Thanks, Kerry. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network. Now, more than ever.